Thank you for joining us to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Sharon Faye Foundation, now known as the Emotion Research Institute. Some of you will remember 10 years ago at a similar event, we combined a few milestones together. We opened the new Subiaco office, we launched the Sharon Faye Foundation, and it was my 60th birthday. In a similar way, this afternoon, we are celebrating a few milestones. The expansion of Clear Perceptions Culture Change Specialist to Clear Perceptions Psychology. It's the 10th anniversary of the Institute with a new name, logo and website. And yes, today I celebrate my 70th birthday. 70 years sounds like a long time on the planet, but it seems like I just blinked. And I thought it was timely to reflect upon how I got here, and therefore how we got here, and to map out the Institute's vision for the future. Some of you have seen this photo of the 3-year-old. Everyone sees something different in this photo. I see a sad little girl. The child's first memory is in the back of a taxi with her mother and baby sister. The child asked her mother, "Where are we going?" Her mother replied, "On a holiday." The child asked, "When is Daddy coming?" The mother replied, "Soon." The child's mother left her father due to his gambling addiction. The story goes that the mother would hide the rent money and the father would find the money and gamble it away. And she couldn't keep living like that. From that point, the mother spent many years travelling from state to state, keeping one step ahead of her father. As a result, the child went from school to school, from state to state, from grade 4 to grade 5 and grade 4 again. She missed basic education, for example, the transition from pounds, shillings and pence to decimal currency. As well as becoming extremely abusive, her mother made poor decisions. She took a job as a living cook in a boarding house with 14 men and her 2 little girls. You can guess what happened. The child in the story is me. I was a silent, withdrawn child. At primary school, I would rock alone in the playground. No one came to ask if I was okay. My education was so poor that I was even classified as retarded, which I know is not how we describe learning disability today, but that was the language back then. I didn't feel safe at home or at school. I ran away to live on the streets. The streets of Perth were where I learned to survive. I discovered I was fast, smart, and hypervigilant. It was where I discovered I was a runner. But I also learned that the world doesn't handle sadness very well, or any negative emotion for that matter. We're continually told to cheer up or put on a happy face. The problem is that it teaches children to numb themselves, which is exactly what I did. I became a teenage alcoholic, and even later in life, off the streets, safe in a marriage to a nice man, my determination to break the cycle of abuse became my new mission. I made it my goal to raise my 4 children with love, curiosity, and to value education. One day, all too soon, my youngest daughter was starting year 1. When my husband left for work and all 4 children went off to school that day, I went back inside to my lovely home and collapsed on the kitchen floor. Once again, it was time to face myself. Intuitively, I knew I needed help, even if I didn't want to face it. The next day, I searched for a psychologist and found one attached to a local hospital. Jenny dropped a bombshell by telling me that I was highly intelligent. This information was shocking to me after living as a retarded person for 34 years. I eventually enrolled into TAFE, taking the mandatory 1 English and 1 science subject to sit the TEE. I sat in these 2 classes and cried for the whole year. My English teacher was a kind and patient man, and I received my first A grade in his class by writing a story. I still remember that story today, even though I failed the year. Nevertheless, my intelligence kept shining through, even though I didn't realise it at the time. I had intuitively set up a safety net that year by scheduling a test that was called the Mature Age Matriculation. During that test, I froze. I don't really remember what happened, except I wrote a story about my life. And when the big yellow envelope arrived in the mail, I thought it was a mistake. Surely they'd sent the envelope to the wrong person. After all, I was retarded. I opened the envelope. I couldn't believe it. I had been accepted into university. I went through many trials and tribulations at university, and 6 years later I had 3 degrees. The 4th degree came later. Not bad for a kid who was told she's retarded. The synopsis of my story gives some insight into what is possible. My 2 life experiences of emotion and education provide the context for the Emotion Research Institute. We are committed to researching and educating the world about the benefits of feeling rather than suffering. Our vision for the future is to make Perth the worldwide hub of emotion research. I envisage scholars coming from all over the world to the Emotion Research Institute to study emotion, publish their findings, and bring emotion research into the 21st century. Our 2 areas of focus are the science of emotion and applied research on emotion. In the first area, we plan to collaborate with neuroscientists and biomedical scientists to examine and review the current challenges in relation to the measurement of emotion, such as blood composition, skin conductivity, heart rate variability, eye tracking analysis, and hormone levels. The Institute is committed to putting emotion research on the map and educating people on how to use emotion to improve the health and well-being of our communities. The second area, applied research on emotion, is a type of research that uses scientific principles to solve practical problems in systems such as education, business, law, and politics. We have a couple of questions of interest. The first one is, what is an emotion? This was posed by a famous psychologist, William James, in 1884, and still today no one really has answered that question properly, really. The Emotion Research Institute intends to answer that question once and for all. And a second big question is, how can we explain how emotional strength works through science? We want to discover how emotional strength heals physical ailments. And that's a very complex piece of research. And we want to discover the emotion-body connection. I also envisage starting a school for children like me, students who are falling through the cracks of mainstream education. These children have different learning styles to other students, and classroom teachers haven't got the resources or the training to discover each student's learning style. This new type of teaching will be through the lens of emotional strength. The Emotion Research Institute School will attract teachers who have the skills and the mindset to work with students who are feelers or have been considered to have learning difficulties. I'll leave you with this final thought on how important emotional strength is to me and the world. Most of you know I'm a marathon runner, and in April this year I went to run the Boston Marathon, although unfortunately I started injured, and I don't recommend that. But it was for my 6-star medal, which only goes to people who have run the 6 major marathons in the world: New York, Berlin, Chicago, London, Tokyo, and Boston. And this was my last one. All I knew about my injury then was it was painful, and the pain was severe. And when I got back, first thing I did was get an MRI, and now I know it was a torn lateral meniscus on my right knee. But I didn't want to know what it was before the marathon, because I was determined to run Boston in my 70th year. I spent 3 days in Boston by myself, connecting and feeling excruciating pain down my right leg. As a long-distance runner, the advice is often to tune out or ignore the pain, think of something else, or load up with painkillers. One thing that I've learned in my life is that numbing is not the answer. I needed to feel the pain. But I still found myself doubting. When my son Joel arrived, he saw me in extreme pain. He didn't offer advice, he didn't rescue me. We just made the most of spending valuable time together. Then the night before the marathon, he said, "I've seen you cross the finish line." I felt the pain at the starting line, during the marathon, and after the marathon, and I achieved my 6-star medal. Now I'd like to make a few acknowledgements, if I could. I'd like to thank, first of all of you today for being here. You were invited because you have played an important role over the 10 years, or you are important to me personally, or both. I would like to thank Rachel for believing in our vision and taking our charity to another level. Rachel worked with Nigel and his team from Jam Jar to successfully drive the rebranding from the Sharon Faye Foundation to the Emotion Research Institute. They worked tirelessly to design our new logo, create our new website, to capture the essence of our message. Welcome to Roseanne at Clear Perceptions as my new EA, and Phil, the first psychologist in Suite 3. And Phil has an amazing story of his own to tell. I would like to acknowledge and introduce the Board of Directors, Dr. Joel Hooper and Natasha Liddell, who will lead the Institute into the future. We are also in the process of recruiting 2 more non-executive directors. As I've mentioned, I'm thrilled to have my son here from the United Kingdom. My sister Carmen flew in from Cairns to be here for this special occasion, and several people drove up from down south to be here tonight. I acknowledge my 2 grandsons, who I love very much. I also acknowledge my dear friend Roy, who is a champion for emotional strength and the Institute, and is always there when we need him. A big shout out to Carmen Braidwood, who is in Italy right now, who I've taken on as my media coach. My goal with Carmen's support is to develop a more public profile with the aim of educating more people to the benefits of connecting to emotion and developing emotional strength. Thank you.